Welcome back to Consider Life. If you like the channel, then subscribe. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Comment in the comment section and turn on notifications so you can see when content is popping up. Today I want to talk about this notion of people stating what their identities are and what our Christian obligations are to those, because I want to sort of zoom out beyond this sort of 21st century American Western viewpoint. And I want to try and situate an individual's statement about their identity in the context of our theological commitments. Because there are certain obligations that society is trying to foist upon us. But I think in a principled Christian way, there's a loving approach to this that I think cuts across these societal or cultural tendencies. We're going to take a look at a very short clip of this woman expressing what her identity is, and then react to that.
Do you know what makes me special? I'm a queer. Woo! And I'm a witch!
I originally saw this clip on Cap Chatfield's podcast, and as I saw it, it provoked a reaction in me that prompted this video. And it speaks to the larger question: when people self-identify as something, right? In this case, a queer witch. How should we respond to that? What are our obligations? And in our culture, as it is today, the obligation is to simply assent or affirm or support this person. Okay, well, they identified themselves as a queer witch, and so who am I to say that they're not that, right? But this is where our Christian principles, I think, cut against the grain of those kinds of impositions from the culture. And what I would say is this. I've done videos in the past dealing with things like a biblical or a philosophical approach to, say, gender issues. So starting from this broad theological perspective, this is what we have to say. Given our belief about God as the creator, as the sole creator of all things that exist, both their existence and their nature. Things exist because God has created them. Things exist as what they are because God has created those. And things exist in the times and places in which they live. Paul tells us this in Acts 17. Because God has chosen that we exist, what we are, and when and where we live. All of these things, as we might say, are involuntary to us. We don't choose them. I didn't choose to exist. I didn't choose to exist as a human. I didn't choose to exist as a human male. All of these things are involuntary. They're from the Creator, and I just simply find myself existing as a human male in America in the 21st century, right? So, from our theological perspective, given all of those things that God has chosen to make us what we are, where we are, and when we are, right? What is our obligation when somebody identifies themselves as a, for example, a queer witch, right? I think our obligation is this. This person, this woman who has identified herself as a queer witch, these are things that she does. Apparently she is homosexual. Apparently she is into the occult. But our obligation as Christians is to see beyond those things, is to see beyond how this individual has identified themselves, and to see the more fundamental identity that this person has. This person would not exist if God had not created her. She wouldn't exist as a female living in today. And so I think our Christian obligation is to side with the things that are more fundamentally true about her existence. That they are from God and that they are for God, right? However she chooses to deface her body with tattoos and piercings, however she chooses to identify herself with the world and its system, even the enemy of God. I don't know if she's specifically a Satanist, but a witch is somebody who, her appearance gives the impression that she has sided with the demonic, the occult, the satanic in the world, right? But although Satan may be able to traumatize and destroy and try and deface a life. He cannot undo what God has done, right? So this person identifies themselves as a queer witch. Our Christian obligation is to love them as something that God has made, someone that God has made to live in this place, in this time, right? And to look past these elements of self-identification that can be off-putting to Christians in the West. Someone who identifies themselves this way might, on first glance, be seen as an enemy to the Christian church in the West, but they're not. The enemy is an unseen enemy that is behind all of these things. And though he might be able to try and deface an individual and use their trauma against them, he will never be able to undo what God has done. And so that's why that in this culture, this climate of simply affirming however people identify themselves, I'm increasingly drawn to this degree of apathy that I don't care how you identify yourself. The question is, what did God make you to be? That's your true identity. And until you find that, you're not going to be at peace in your own skin. You're not going to feel at home in the world until you come back to the Father who made you and who loves you and has a plan for your life that goes through Jesus Christ and ends up at the feet of the Lord, the Father. So that's it for this video. I wanted to use that clip as a way to think Christianly about what our obligations are to other people when they affirm certain identities that we just simply don't agree with.